Do you remember this estranged parent? I will, in the description, link some videos back. She's one who goes, apologize for what? And she heavily goes after her daughter-in-law and scapegoats her daughter-in-law. She's been doing this for quite some time, actually. And she really paints herself as the victim and does all the things that we see estranged parents doing. Well, daughter-in-law, and I think with the support of her husband, it looks like, is standing up for herself and making rebuttal videos, which I have not seen anybody do before. And I'm really glad that she's doing it. I'm actually going to invite her to be on But She's Your Mother. I will put her handle. She's on TT on the other channel in the comment section as well. If you want to follow her, if you want to support her, you're more than welcome to do that. I appreciate this type of content because everybody's going, what about the other side of the story? Well, here the fuck it is. Oh, and by the way, everybody says that. I sound like the mother-in-law. Everybody knows you're crazy. Anyway, we get that question all the time as the children, that there's two sides of the story. And then as the adult children, where's the other side of the story? As if we are responsible for the foundation and formation of the relationship that no longer exists in adulthood, right? Anywho, let's just dive into it. Yeah.
Kim posted this video and it's about my elder son. She posted it on Valentine's Day. So I'll let you watch the video that she posted and then I'll tell you what actually happened that day.
Had a very sad day today. Me and my husband saw our grandson. He's 5. And we went to say hello and done the wave and everything. And he looked horrified and he ran away. What the hell has my daughter-in-law told my grandson? It's horrible. Our hearts, both of us, mine and my husband's, were broken today. I really hope karma comes back and one day she's a nana and it happens to her, because that was just dreadful. But I hope everyone had a nice Valentine's Day. Ours was nice until that happened. All right, thanks.
So he was actually 6 when this happened, but I think she forgot a birthday.
So before I play the rebuttal, and I'm sorry, there's construction in the background and I can't get rid of it. So anywho, I want you to notice a couple of things that you'll pay attention to in the rebuttal. She did the wave. She's making it seem like she did this, right? That's actually not what happened. She did this to a child who hadn't seen her in a significant amount of time at a school that she showed up to uninvited, unannounced, and the child, was likely taken aback by. I'm getting ahead of the video a little bit. You're going to hear this in the words of the daughter-in-law. I'm doing that on purpose. I want you to pay attention and kind of tune in on that. The other thing that I think it's significant to pay attention to is how venomous this Kim person is, the mother-in-law, the grandmother to the child. She wishes that her daughter-in-law goes through the same thing when she becomes a nana. So what does that actually say? I hope my grandchildren estrange from you the way that my children, my son, and you have estranged from me. And I hope that their children, my great-grandchildren, don't have a relationship with you because I want to hurt you. Do you see the focus on wanting to hurt her own son and daughter-in-law, but she's not holding her son in any way accountable. It's only the daughter-in-law's fault that the situation is what it is, right? She's so focused on her venom towards them that I think it tells a story. She's not focused on the well-being of her grandson at all. She's focused on what she didn't get that day and how her heart was broken, not how her grandson might have felt with that surprise visit. Okay. Let's listen to the rest, shall we?
So he was actually 6 when this happened, but I think she forgot a birthday there. So on that day, my husband, my youngest son, and I went out for the day. We went and did some shopping, things like that. And we were pulling into the street that the school's on. And as we were pulling in, we saw Kim and her husband in their car on the opposite side of the road driving out of the street. So we thought nothing of that really. We thought it was a bit strange that they would be in that area at that time of the day. But then as we pulled up closer to the school, we noticed that our son wasn't out the front. And usually what he will do, he'll stand next to his teacher at the crossing, or whatever teacher is on that day at the crossing. And he wasn't there. So my husband started freaking out. He's like, quick, just pull up there. I started freaking out because we both thought the same thing. Have they picked him up? And we weren't talking at the time. So we quickly pulled in. My husband went to the opposite side of the road to look for him, and I went to the crossing, and we couldn't see him anywhere. And then my husband come back over to me and he's like, I don't know, where is he? And he started to walk into the school, and I had to stay near the car because my youngest son was in the car. So I stood near the gate watching, and then we saw my eldest son walking out with a teacher, and he was holding on to her and he was bawling his eyes out. He looked terrified. And then the teacher come over to me and spoke. Nathan come over as well, my husband, and she spoke to us and said that he ran into, so he was outside and he ran into the classroom and he was terrified. He was crying. He was saying that he doesn't want them to take him. So he must have been scared that they were also going to take him. I explained what was going on to the teacher, and I didn't want to ask my son any questions about it because he was already very upset. So we just took him home. And then later on I did ask him, and he was saying that they were like waving at him, but like waving, come to me. And he didn't want to. He's scared of them. And there's been a lot of things that have happened, and he's got this fear from experience. So I don't blame him, to be honest. But yeah, that's the real story. That's what actually happened.
So Nana has terrorized this child through her own bad behavior. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. And we're not going to leave Grandpa out of it, but it sounds like it really however, it sounds like it really came down to the behavior of Nana. Nana is the one who's out here making the videos. Nana is the one who's saying, apologize for what? Nana is the one out here vilifying her daughter-in-law like she's a horrible person, and in no way holding her son accountable, or saying, well, it's my son's decision to go no contact. It's all driven by this one very powerful daughter-in-law. And whatever this child has witnessed, I mean, even the way the daughter-in-law communicates, she's not talking about specific incidents that would have caused this child to know he should be afraid of this person, something he's witnessed. She's not poisoning or manipulating her child. She's caring for his emotional needs. He was traumatized by this event, and this piece of human garbage, Kim, is out there playing victim of the situation. And I'm really glad that the daughter-in-law is speaking out, because these are the things that get lost in the shuffle, the human faces behind the words of these estranged parents, the grandchildren that they claim that they're, grieving over and hurt over and love so much. She didn't prioritize the emotional well-being of her grandchild that day. She prioritized what she wanted in that moment with no thought to how that little boy would feel or not feel. I've watched other videos from the daughter-in-law, and the mother-in-law evidently said, I used to see them every day. He practically lived with me. I practically raised him. At most, at the height of when she was seeing this particular grandchild, it was 2 to 3 days a week for about an hour and a half, because the parents were dropping off the little boy in transition between their work shifts. And the daughter-in-law goes further to say, you know, if there was ever a time where she didn't want to babysit or have her grandson, my son, it wouldn't have been a problem. I always was able to make adjustments at work, and she knew that. She goes on to say that she never saw the children every day, and that she made minimal effort outside of that period of time, which sounds like it was pretty brief. She never showed up to a soccer game, to a school event, or anything like that, in spite of, at that time, living around the corner. So she's out here bull-faced lying about, you know, her importance, her significance in the lives of her grandchildren. Yeah. Shocking? No, not at all. So to all of you out there in the estrangement community, particularly my estranged parents out there, and I do call you my estranged parents, the ones who are looking for healing and to do better, I want you to know that if you're walking around with those wounds, because obviously you miss your grandchildren and, you know, you're hurting because of where your relationship has ended up. And I bet you it's more because you passed down trauma than you actually abused your children. The ones out there who are looking for healing, and you see a story like this and it's relatable to you, you need to look underneath the surface of what you're following. And when you see things like accountability, I don't take accountability, those spoiled kids, or what do I apologize for? Or you're seeing things like from estranged parents who haven't worked on themselves, who haven't gone to therapy, who aren't where you want to be in terms of they haven't repaired their own relationship. I want you to know, if that's what you attach yourself to and that's the road you go down, you're never going to have a chance to have a relationship with your adult children, who should be the number one important person for you, adult child, to have a relationship with your grandchildren, who should be secondary. You know, if your grandchildren are more important to you than your adult children, that says something about you that you might want to look in the mirror and ask yourself why that is. Is it because you want a second chance? That's about you, not about the well-being of your adult child or your grandchildren, if that's the case. And I speak from a place of experience. I was never estranged from my grandchildren, thankfully. I had repaired my relationship with my adult daughter before my grandchildren were even conceived, and I'm very grateful for that. My adult daughter estranged from me over 20 years ago for a couple of years. I was 17 years old when I had her. That's not her problem. That was my responsibility, my accountability to take. I never hid behind that. I never used that as an excuse. Is the reality that I was emotionally immature. I was an abuse survivor. I'm still an abuse survivor. I was a very broken person, and there were lots of moving pieces in there. Yeah, that's the reality. However, it was my responsibility when I chose to bring my children into the world to do better, to seek resources, even if I couldn't afford therapy, for example. And so all of those things I didn't burden my children with. I didn't make a part of my reasoning for anything that I did. The reasons to me were irrelevant. The way I made my children feel at different points in time, the only one I was ever estranged from is my oldest daughter, is the only thing that's important and that mattered. What I went through isn't her problem, that's a me problem. And whether or not it caused some of my behaviors and my emotional immaturity is a me problem, not a her problem. I should have fixed that. That's it. That's all. That's how I look at it. And the fact of the matter is, 20 years later, we've been in a solid relationship for the last 20 years, and she calls me for parenting advice. So I think I kind of got it right. And eventually all of my children, and again, my other kids didn't have the same experience with me because I wasn't 17 when I had them. I wasn't in a relationship with my mother, I was when I had my youngest son, but it was on and off and it was minimal exposure. The proof is in the pudding. And later on, things came full circle. Things came to a place where my children have shown me empathy and compassion, and we talk about the experiences that I went through. And now, all these years later, in many ways, they're in awe of me in terms of how much I was able to show up for them. And the one thing that was always consistent, even in the times I passed down trauma, and all of my children have verbalized this to me, is that they felt loved by me every day. That feeling of love, though, didn't protect me or my eldest daughter from an estrangement, because it takes more than just that one feeling, right? Than that big feeling. Estranged parents, my estranged parents, the ones who are really looking to end up in relationships with your children, please follow people who are where you want to be rather than where you are right now. The people who are where you want to be can also talk about the pain that they experienced without living in a place that allows you to stay in a place where you hide from the reality of your own accountability. And being accountable, maybe it can feel scary for some people. I think it feels scarier than others. At the end of the day, the things we take accountability for are the things that we grow from and the things that we can change, and are the things that we can learn from in terms of how to show up better, not just for relationships with other people, specifically our adult children and our grandchildren if we have them, but also in relationship to how we treat ourselves. I wish you all well. I wish you all healing. I'm going to do some more deep diving and featuring on this daughter-in-law and this very narcissistic, toxic, emotionally immature, lying sack of, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. She makes me sparky. Can't even speak anymore. Mother-in-law, because I think this kind of exposure is important. I think that there are going to be a lot of adult children who see validation in this. And I actually do also think that there are some estranged parents who are going to look at this and go, I don't want that association. I need to look for resources. So I think in all worlds, we can use these things as a teachable moment and have something positive come from them. All right. Thanks so much for being here. If you have someone you would like me to feature, do not tag me in their videos because they will block me. Send me a link or a name or something like that. Okay. And if you have something that you would like me to talk about, let me know. I have received quite a few requests to talk about parental alienation versus estrangement. And I am going to be doing a feature on that. It's going to take me a little bit of time because I want to be very thoughtful in how I do that. Those are two very different things. I did co-write a book about a man's personal journey with parental alienation years ago. And so I do have an understanding around it outside of the fact that I'm a therapist. I don't work with PAS as much as I work with narcissistic family systems related to the recovery of the victims in those systems. Not all of my clients are estranged. In fact, I'm probably 50-50. Some are in full relationships, some are low contact, and of course some are estranged. My therapy practice isn't about estrangement. It's about healing the wounds from people who have grown up within those systems. So if you have any questions, let me know and I'll see you soon. Thanks for being here.